again YouTube, Mad Dog here, welcome back to my channel. So this video is a bit of a carry on from the last video that I've uploaded regarding my emails. So the second email that I aforementioned was this chap. He's been asking for some help and advice on ferro rod use basically. He's been struggling to get basically a basic fat wood fire established, and so I thought I'd show a few tips and tricks, little bits of advice. So before I start, for those of you that are already proficient and well versed in ferro rod use, forgive me and I apologise in advance. For those of you that are just starting out and watching, I hope you find some of these little bits of advice useful. And even people that are well experienced in using ferro rods, you might find one or two little tips and tricks useful. Who knows, we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. So stay tuned and we'll have a look at the ferro rods to begin with. Okay, so what we've got on the bench is just a rough, very basic collection of different types of ferro rod. I say different types, they're all similar in the fact that they are small, cheap, don't have to be anything flashy or fancy, everyday user ferro rods. So here we have 100mm by 8mm, or it might even be 10mm this one, with a day glow handle there. You know, just a standard one of these imported ferro rods with a lanyard and a basic striker that comes with that. Nothing flash or fancy. I have various kits that I've put together on small ferro rods. These are 5mm by 45mm, and a few safety items, you know, whistle, torch. Little footnote, if you are going to wear anything around your neck, ferro rods or otherwise, please always include a snap fitting if you're wearing it around your neck with paracord. You know, let's keep it safe so that breaks free should you take a tumble or fall and you get snagged. Don't wear anything around your neck equipment wise that hasn't got one of them. That would be my advice. Personally, even then, I'm not a big fan of wearing stuff around my neck, but each to their own. A real rough-assed homemade thing. Again, you know, it's I think this is 80mm by 8mm. That's my preferred size, and the reason being, it's small enough to carry, it's small enough to be pocket size, it's large enough not to have to fumble about with and struggle to hold. You know, if you've got one of these small ass ferro rods and you haven't got any sort of handle on it, you can struggle, especially if you're cold and wet. And you know, it's alright being all minimalistic and stealthy and all that good stuff, but you know, we're here to light a fire, you know, let's get it done. So have something that you can at least get hold of. That would be my first piece of advice. Like this, we've got the, you know, a military sort of standard, like I think this was a BCB, something like that, I can't remember now, some military firelighter. Again, I think it's around 80mm by 8mm with a tin striker, and as you can see, this one's brand new, it's not been used. I've just thrown a paracord lanyard on it. So I'm going to use this one as my demonstrator, move all this other stuff to one side just for now. So first things first, as they say, your ferro rod, once you've removed it from the packaging, whatever it comes in, it's coated in a black protective film. That's there to stop the oxidization process starting on your ferro rod, because as you know by the name ferro is iron content. You're going to have an iron content with the magnesium and other flammable materials in that alloy that will corrode and rust. That's what the black coating's on for, to stop that happening in storage. So the first thing you must do before any use, if you use a piece of sandpaper, that's fine, or the scraper provided, just gently start to scrape off that black coating. This is done prior to actually meaningfully strike it, so I'm just gently, you'll see one or two sparks obviously, but I'm not actually going out my way to strike this thing yet. Just gently remove it all. You want it nice and shiny and silver before you even attempt, you know, to use it in anger. That'd be tip number one, and it's ground zero basics, but a lot of people don't. They go straight ahead and wah. Anyway, so before I move on to demonstrating outside with different tinders, etc., I'm just going to show my theory, this is just my opinion of the principle and the methods that you'll need to use when using these things effectively. So stay with me and I'll just pan you up a little ways. Okay, I'm afraid my ugly mug's back in frame, so sorry for that. So the ferro rod. Now this is where, for me, I think a lot of people still make this mistake. When you take your striker and you're striking your ferrocerium rod, a lot of people have a tendency, this is before I get onto the preparation of your tinder and methods and techniques, this is just purely basic use. Okay, a lot of people will go like this, and yeah, they're getting sparks. This is picking up. Yeah, we're getting some sparks. Let me pan you down to the black bench so you can see. Here we go. So yeah, we're getting sparks. Why won't my firelight? Why won't my firelight? Etc. Now for me, the fundament of even using a ferrocerium rod is this. What we need to do is, using the striker, they come sharp or a 90-degree edge for a reason. Let me show you using the back of the old Mora knife here. We'll bang on about having a 90-degree spine on the back of that spine on that knife to use to strike a ferrocerium rod. But a lot of people still do this. Now let me give you a close-up of what's happening. They're holding the knife like that. Just pick it up like that, scraping along. That isn't what we're trying to do. Whilst yes, you're making sparks, what we're doing is we're removing a tiny amount of material off the ferro rod, which burns, combusts, and by the time that spark has landed into your tinder pile, has burnt out, extinguished, and it's gone cold. It's not what we're trying to achieve. What we need to achieve is that 90-degree spine on your striker or the back of your knife needs to be held at 45 degrees to your material, because basically we want to remove as much ferrocerium rod. We're not gouging, but we are forcibly removing. We're rolling material off. Now if I can just show you there, this will pick up, you'll see the line where I've just struck that. We're doing it on purpose and meaningful. We want a good, I don't know if this will pick up on the bench, we want material to roll. That being said, the reason being, the material that we're scraping off that ferro rod is it's still material, and so when that lands into your tinder pile, it's still got substance, so it's carrying a lot more heat, a lot more energy, it's still burning fiercely, allowing time for your tinder to be ignited by that heat. It's not receiving cold dying sparks, it's receiving basically molten material. That's what we're after, is basically throwing lava into your tinder pile. So you know, don't be frightened of giving it some, basically. But to achieve that, you need to hold your 90-degree edge at 45 degrees to make it aggressive and a cutting, slicing motion. And that's true whether you're using the back of a knife or the striker, whatever provided. You see, you got to really go for it to give good sparks to start with. So now I'm going to cut to technique. Stay with me. Okay, this little section's basically technique or techniques. What I've got here on the old slippy bacon tray is a bit of sort of fatwood shavings. I've taken off a fatwood stick. Again, using the 90-degree spine on his knife just to gather some fine shavings to make our tinder ball. So nothing flash or fancy. We use the 90-degree spine the same way you would strike your ferro rod. So again, find that 45-degree edge and use that to scrape this time. Same principle to remove material. So we're applying the same method to gathering our tinder. So I'm showing fatwood because the gentleman in question that sent me this email, I may read the email through properly at the end of this video, because it is going to be a long ass video, so apologise and excuse me in advance. So we've got our tinder bundle. Now one of the problems that you may find, and I think this chap's experiencing the same, is using the end of the ferro rod in that material and is striking away and knocking the tinder away from from his point of ignition. So, oh bloody hell, you know, how am I going to get this lit? So I'm exaggerating for demonstration purposes, so bear with me. So I'm knocking it all over the place. What the hell am I going to do with this, you know? And it does get tiresome, especially when it's wet, windy. You've got the wind blowing across, which doesn't help. So that's where technique comes into play. So rather than putting the end of your ferro rod in that tinder pile, we have a couple of options. We can do the same, but lean your fist or the back of the knife against your hard surface, your stump, your log, the ground, in my case the baking tray. Put the ferrocerium rod again at 90 degrees to it, keeping your fist in place, not moving the knife. Draw back sharply with your ferro rod, so you've reversed the action. So rather than pushing the knife forward, we're keeping the knife static and the ferro rod's coming back. Sparks still go forward. You've not knocked your tinder ball everywhere. That's the technique that you need for close quartered up and dirty. If you're using fine tinder like this that you can knock everywhere. So here comes a little mad dog tip. In your survival kit, your first aid kit, you may have medical tape, gaffer tape, duct tape, gorilla tape, whatever you may choose to carry, or at least I hope you do. So take yourself a piece of that, and sticky side, shiny side, turn that back on itself. So you've made two ears, and then stick them two ears together. So now all around here's sticky. Get your tinder pile and shove it on. So okay, so now I've got a sticky side that I can place on my baking tray, my log, wherever you're doing it. And when the wind blows, this is where I get shit everywhere for everybody, you can see the difference. It's stuck, it ain't going nowhere. So now you can get up close and dirty and personal, get in there, and it's not going to knock it everywhere because it's stuck basically. So that being said, my mate that sent me this email has said he's tried, you know, firing sparks from afar above the tinder and not being able to ignite it that way. Now without seeing your technique, mate, again I would only say that you're either too far away, your tinder isn't prepped enough, or you're not being aggressive enough with that 45-degree angle. Really, I'm not going to swear, but really don't piss about. Get the job done. Do it once and meaningful. Regarding tinder prep, now for me, if you're just beginning at this sort of thing, bear with me. What I would also suggest for people to try and practice, get yourself a bit of any old dry wood and make yourself a feather stick as normal. We all know the feather stick technique, you know, you're rolling your knife down to make nice fine curly whirlies. Preferably on a piece of wood that has a flat base. Making a complete hash of this because I'm trying to do it in a time as well. I'm aware that this video is going to be a long ass video, so normally you should take your time when making feather sticks or any tinder and do it right once. I'm just doing this to show the method and the principle, so please be patient and bear with me. So once you have made your rough ass feather stick, that's too coarse, way too coarse, but to show the method, you will then place your feather stick on your surface, and then you can put your end of ferro rod into that and strike away to your heart's content, and you're not going to knock your tinder away because it is already part of the base that you're working from. So I would advise anybody that's doing this sort of thing, that's new to it, learn how to do a decent feather stick first. That's what's coming from me showing that. Let me get a sharper knife here, go on the back. You want some real fine ass curly whirlies going on here. Okay, we're making some progress, nice and slowly. I just didn't want this video to be like an hour long, you know. I guess you're all nodding off to sleep already. you guys and lasses, you all know this anyway. You make yourself some nice fine curly whirlies, that ain't much better. This wood's as hard as hell. Excuses in hand. It's about your preparation, which I've poorly demonstrated. You need good prep for any fire lay, especially when you're using ferro rods, especially more so with friction fires. So there will be little tips and tricks that I would use. Definitely the gaffer tape, the duct tape, that works a treat. If you're working up close and dirty and personal with it, draw the ferro rod back from the knife, keeping a stable platform. That's definitely a technique well worth practicing. And if you're going to use the standard technique of firing from above, you know, do it like you mean it and your fire will go straight away. I'll just pat this out a minute if I can, and we'll go this way. So just do it like we mean it and we're good to go. There's his fire. So my mate, I'm going to read your email through now before I set fire to the whole damn shed. I really appreciate your communication, it's been great fun. I hope this little video has helped you a little ways and made some sense. If it hasn't, woo, please don't forget, you know, contact me again. I'm always here. I find it enjoyable. So I'm going to cut back and put the fire out of my shed now. And I'll read the email through to you guys and lasses and see what you all think. Thanks for staying with me so far. Stay tuned. Yeah. Okay, welcome back. So the shed's cleared of smoke a little ways now. So I'm going to get on with reading the original email that I was sent. But before doing so, I forgot to mention this. The feather stick. Once you've made your feather stick, not rough-assed like my first attempt, I've done this again in a haste to show you what not to do. Make it nice and fine and fibrous and fluffy, that's what we're after. The other advantage with a feather stick is the fact that when it's wet and rainy, like it usually is over in the UK, you can place your ferro rod onto that. You're not going to knock your tinder away when striking, and you're already off the wet ground, so you've already got a dry base. So, you know, and if you have made a hash like this poor demonstration of mine, save it, don't throw it, that's good tinder. So again, learn how to do a good feather stick. That, I think, for me is key. Some people hate feather sticks, some people love them. I fall into the latter. I love them. Well worth doing in my opinion. Like I say, good for wet weather. To get good dry feather sticks, when you've got your branches, dead wood, not live green wood obviously, the centre is usually always driest, so cut the four sides off, if that makes sense, to make a square out of your round. Split it in half and get as much out the centre as you can to make your feather stick. Same as if you're making a bow drill, spindle or hearth, same applies. That's the driest bit of any dead wood. So the email itself. Hi Andy, again that's my name for those of you that don't know, you know, my proper name. Thanks so much for passing me your email. I've always had a mild curiosity for bushcraft and the skills that go with it. I read books and watch videos, to include yours and many others. Thank you, brother. I have practiced the bow drill until I've got it, which was horrendous. A good skill, but not something I will choose. Totally agree. Again, that's the difference between survival and bushcraft. Bushcraft, nice to know how to use it, but in a survival situation, use a lighter or a ferro rod. You know, it's about maintaining calories, not expending energy unnecessarily. I mean, if the bow drill's all you've got, then yeah, use it. You know, it's common sense. But well done getting that done, mate, because that's a good one to have mastered. Excuse me, where am I? I got some char cloth last summer, which, after watching your video, where am I? Using the Fresnel lens to start the fire, I got that, I did that, and then spent an afternoon practicing on various items. Good. Learn diversity throughout your materials. You're good to go wherever you go. That's always good practice. However, I cannot seem to get the ferro rod right. That's okay, you know, it's no problem. Last night I was practicing in my garden in the rain using fat wood shavings, from you, of course. Thank you very much for your support, appreciate that. I was using 3 different rods, all different sizes. The one that worked the best was the biggest. Do excuse me, the smaller one sparks a lot but took a while to catch. I watch a guy, MC Bushcraft. He uses one he made himself, which is 5 inches, so quite big, and a knife as a striker. I don't know if you were referring to MCQ Bushcraft, at Mike over at MCQ Bushcraft. Very knowledgeable, very very good bushcrafter, good all-round guy to check out. So I do recommend his channel. If it isn't that guy, then I apologise. So my questions are: can you recommend the best size of rod to use? And if I want to get a knife to use as a striker, what is the best types, as they seem to produce a tremendous amount of sparks with very little effort? So I'm just going to jump in here just to dispel a myth straight away. A lot of people say don't get stainless, they're no good, always go carbon steel. Now, whilst that is true with flint, it doesn't apply to ferro rods. So just to show, I've got my Mora Cansbowl, which is stainless steel, and the old pretty battered 511 Mora, which is carbon steel. The same ferro rod which I was using earlier, Mora, carbon, no problem. Mora Cansbowl, stainless steel, no problem. The key here is, again, having a good sharp 90-degree spine. All knives are going to be harder than your ferro cerium rod material. So for me, any knife that you choose to carry must have a 90-degree spine, and you'll get sparks from it. If you're going to go with a UK legal carry folder, which is non-locking, non-fixed obviously, then please, if you're practicing, don't go and fold the knife up across your knuckles and cause yourself an injury. So I'm not going to get into all that, but any knife with a 90-degree spine will work, long story short. Right, also, do you strike all the way down the rod or just from the bottom? So yes, we've seen Ray Mears, who's obviously very skilled in his field, striking right at the very end, and getting his fires going from that, which is possible. You need to be proficient at it, and your tinder has to be absolutely bang on point, which with time and practice you can do. Me personally, I would recommend, especially for a beginner, going all the way down the spine, all the way down the ferro rod with the spine of the knife, because that gives you opportunity to adjust your position, adjust your movement, get a feel for what's right and what works, what doesn't. Why not? And the wear and tear on your ferro rod will be even. Otherwise you'll end up doing what I usually do. I don't know if I can show you this on this sheath here. It's not a very good demonstration, but I'll end up with a dip and then a step. That's bad practice, bad form. That's me being sloppy. So regarding doing the full length, will keep a nice even wear on your ferro rod with no steps and juts. So that's good practice in my opinion. Do you place the rod in the material or just above? I've been doing both, but I've found the rod in the material, I seem to blow it all over the place. Just from above, I can't seem to get the sparks to go on the target. Again, as per video, I believe that what you're doing is probably shying away a little bits from it. You've got to really do it like you mean it. 4-6 inches is enough once you've got your method down, or pull the ferro rod back. I'm not going to repeat myself too much. In the end last night, after an hour or so, I seem to have got it and got a little 50p size bundle to catch, but not after spending a lot of time and practicing. Well, you've got to start somewhere. Every great journey always starts with a single footstep, and you've just made that first footstep. So keep going, keep practicing, and everything gets easier with practice. I know things like this takes practice and patience, and I'm more than happy to do so, but just want to practice it the right way to make life easier for myself. Absolutely. So if you can help answer my questions and recommendations, it would be extremely grateful. thank you so much for taking the time to pass on your wisdom. Wisdom? Anyway, thank you for the kind words, mate, but I'm not sure about wisdom. Old age, maybe. So in closing then, I know this is a long ass video, but it is a subject that is dear to my heart. I still see a lot of people on YouTube, you know, and some of them are old enough and wise enough, and they've been in the field long enough to know not to hold the knife like that, and you can see them like doing all this stuff, and I'm like, come on, you know, you should be one or two good, do it like you mean it, you know. So yeah, that would be my basics, covered by that. Practice feather sticking, use good dry tinder, practice with something easy like a cotton wool ball, you know, why not, just don't stick it to yourself and burn yourself. Do it safely, do it where you can get away with fires. Don't use folding knives unless you have to, because you're going to end up cutting yourself over in the UK. Thank you very much for your correspondence. I love stuff like this. It makes me feel like this whole thing is worth doing. If I can help you 1%, then I've helped you 1%, which for me is a win. I really love it. I don't know what more I can add. For me, size of ferro rod isn't a massive issue, as long as it's manageable and holdable. You know, I don't want tiny ass little things too much, and even that boils down to technique, to be honest. Keep practicing. What I would also chuck in there is try different things to practice with. Birch bark, I know it's an obvious one, but get yourself some birch bark, scrape it up into a nice fibrous ball. I mean, that catches a spark like crazy, and you've got a bigger surface area to catch them sparks, so you don't have to be as accurate with where you're throwing them. So that for me is another good one. Anyway, I've rambled on way too long, but I wanted to because I respect people having the time to send me respectful emails, and you know, it's heartfelt for me. It's like it makes it worth doing. So I hope your guys and lasses understand. You may have learned something, you may not, but I love it. Keep practicing out there, stay safe whatever you're doing. I hope this helps, fella. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. See you all soon. Mad Dog signing off. Yeah.